Hello, it is I. I'm here to talk about MP-44. And right now I'm just going to goof around a little bit while I wait for anybody to show up for this. Oh, Nathan Farrett says hello. Hello, Nathan. How are you doing today? Hey, good to see you, Rufus. Did I start late enough for you this time? What do I talk about while I wait for people to show up? I don't know. It is me. I am here. Here to talk about MP-44 Optimus Prime. It's a pretty handsome figure. Put it in the center. Maybe it'll focus on the cab. Well, how is everybody? I'm gonna start. Yeah, when's your MP-44 due, Nathan? And then in 20 minutes, I'll get an answer. Because that's how live streaming works. Rufus asked if I've seen the Zeta Toys Unicron. That is a very handsome Unicron, let me tell you. There's a video out that you can find. Just go to YouTube and search for like Zeta Unicron transformation, or figure out what his actual name is. I forget what they called it, but that's a handsome figure, and they did a really good job of taking all the panels and putting them somewhere, as opposed to Haztax Labs' really low effort attempt where they just stack up a bunch of panels like Pringles potato chips. It's ridiculous. Nathan reports that his MP-44 was delayed by the hurricane. That is a shame. It's quite a nice figure. I'm just starting out here. It's in combined with its trailer. It's a fairly simple mechanism. There's just a slot here. Looks like these came loose in transport today. I'm not quite sure how this hitch tabs together, but it seems to hold really well. But there's just a turntable on the bottom of the trailer, and it only turns so far. I guess they did that for clearance reasons. It does have little supports like a regular trailer. In fact, we'll just take a few minutes and focus on the trailer, because as many people complain, your video didn't include the trailer. Well, the trailer doesn't require a lot of elucidation. So this is the trailer. It's pretty cool. The back opens up, and there's a ramp that extends down, which is nice. Touch on this real quick. This bottom part slides off, and you can actually put a number of the accessories in here. I don't like to, because then I got to drag the trailer with me to enjoy my accessories. But you can actually put the axe, the two bolts, lasers, and the two alternate heads can go into this thing. So it has that if you want. I just keep my accessories in a Ziploc bag. These things extend. It's kind of a clever mechanism because it's got a little gearing there. So when you extend it, let me see if I can get an angle that'll show this off. When you extend it, it actually lowers the foot a little bit. So now the foot is lower than it was. And then it raises back up a little bit as you close it. That's kind of cool. And there's a spare tire on the bottom, because why not? You can extend these. Open up the top. Now you've got all your fun battle station needs taken care of. The car doesn't launch like if I recall the original one did, but it just kind of pegs into the thing. Let's catch up on comments. How does the old MP-10 trailer hook up to him? Maybe there's some confusion. This is the trailer that comes with MP-44. I mean, it looks a lot like the MP-10 trailer, but it's got a few extra features. Yeah, I'm not going to run out and grab the trailer again. I did bring MP-10 up for comparison, so you know we could see if it'll fit on his. But MP-10, for those of you who don't recall, MP-10's hitch was like a specialized, like you would plug into these two like tabs, and then that was the hitch. So the hitch is very different between the two, because just to refresh your memory from a few minutes ago, please don't fall off the desk. This has a big square slot in it, so it's totally different hitch. They are not compatible. There's apparently a number of metal points on the decking. I'll get to that when I get to the figures. But this thing actually, I'm just going to put this away to save space. This thing actually slides back and untabs from the trailer. And then you can flip up these wheels. And put away the slide mechanism tabs. And now you got yourself a spiffy little car. The laser cannons extend out. And of course the thing lifts up. It's got a nice little ratchet to it. This is a little loose, but they did include like a locking mechanism. So you just kind of set it. It kind of goes into the grooves that you can see there. And then it's kind of locked at that point. Also, you can open this up. It's kind of a weird mechanism. And then you can lift this up. And now this, you can pull this tab out. And I left this out, but this is the normal look for this. And then this can flip around. And you can either put his gun in there, you can put in the little gas tank thingamajig, and then also you can put this thing on top, which is fun. And then if we put this back together, is it off camera? I'm like every reviewer now. I'm just doing everything off camera. All right. But then also this thing has a little flip out hitch that can be attached, can be slotted into the little wheel thing. So now you can pull it like a trailer. And then that kind of exhausts the possibilities for this thing. I mean, it's got the little antenna, it's got the arm, it's got a little cockpit that can open up. You can stick one of your little dudes in there. That's pretty much it for this. The trailer, of course, can stand up, so you can have it be like a battle center or like a repair bay with Optimus Prime standing there getting repaired by the arm thing. The little dudes can go in these things you can't see, so they can go into these. We may as well get into the little dudes a little bit, because I'm not sure, in the instructions they point out like where you can put the little dudes. But yeah, Spike can fit into that little cockpit. The thing is, the figures are very small. So let's start with his dad. See if I can figure out where they put the... They said they put them around here. I don't know. Ooh, here's one. So there's like metal plates. So the figures actually have little neodymium magnets in the feet. And so really any piece of metal they'll stick to and then keep their balance a little better than they normally would. Although they'll actually stand. They're surprisingly articulated for such small figures. They have knees and ball socket hips, ball socket arms, and they even have like a torso ball socket and a head that can rotate. So they're kind of cool. And they can all go into the various things. May as well show them all off. So here's Spike, I reckon, whatever their names are. And who's this? Carly, I think. So there's Carly. And there you go. That's them. Since we're in the bag of accessories, here's the little gas pump accessory. It actually kind of tabs to itself, but it's just the original toy had like this gas pump thing that could be attached to wheelie. So there it is. Gas pump. And then there's a gun. And if you want to stow it on Optimus Prime's back, it folds in half pretty easily so that it takes up a little less space. You got the axe. The hand on Prime, I'll try to remember to show it to you later, but you basically untab the hand from like the wrist, and then you tab this thing on. It's a little bit articulated. It can be bent. So it's got like a hinge there. So there's that. They got two of these blast effect things. Two of these. And they can you can slot them into the gun. So there's the gun shooting. I guess we'll get into the backpack. The backpack can tab into the top of the trailer, but also the tab can kind of go away. Let me not fail to show that properly. Here's the tab, and you just put it away. And then this plugs on top of Prime. I'll try to remember to show that. But you can put the blast effects in that too. So he's flying. So that's cool. It comes with a mounting bracket. This will actually go on MP-41's stand. So they included a stand with MP-41, and now they're just not going to include that stand anymore. So you get one goddamn stand from Takara, and that's it. You don't spend, $275, $300, $450 and get a stand. I mean, they're not going to give you that. And then there's a few more accessories that kind of go directly with the figure, so we'll get into those later when he's in robot mode. Take these guys back. And Nathan did not know about the magnet feature. Now you know about the magnet feature. All right. And I guess I'll keep that out too. Is there anything else to say about the trailer? Well, it's got little portals, so you can pop this in. So you can pop that in, and on the other side, so that the arm can come out of the top as needed. So it can come out of the top. There's the hole where you can plug in the rocket pack if you want to. And then also you can fold in the front. So if you want, you can have the thing coming out the front. Wheeler, whatever his name is, he can actually plug into the trailer. If I don't screw it up. Okay, so it doesn't stay plugged in. But he can actually tow the little trailer himself. Although I guess the weight of the trailer kind of messes with him. And that's it for the trailer. I'm not gonna try to keep that on the stage anymore. All right. Oh, and this little guy has a little hood. He's got some parts in there. That's great. All right. We'll get ready to get into this guy. Roller, yeah. Someone pointed out the name is Roller. I'm not all that much into the lore. I'm old enough to remember a lot of it, but my kid could probably tell you more about it now because he just watched all the episodes on Stars. So he's seen G1s more recently than I have. But the truck is nice. Gets dusty. So chrome headlights, chrome rear view mirrors, chrome bumper, chrome wheels, chrome smokestacks. It's nicely painted. There's not much else to say about it there. Just tidying up the joints. Of course, the chrome faux gas tanks. They're very flat, but I think the idea is that you're supposed to just give the impression that they're really big gas tanks and you're only seeing this edge of it. They went to a lot of trouble to do a lot of things like that maybe in the grand scheme of things seem a little excessive. Like they wanted the truck windows to be bigger, so you can see part of the window is the clear part of the center mast here. So they wanted the windows to be bigger in truck mode and smaller in robot mode, and so we'll get into how they achieve that. I mean, you've probably seen my video if you're watching my live stream, but we'll put the rear view mirrors away. And then we'll just get into the legs. The main thing to do here is there is like a fingernail cut there where you can kind of get the side of the trailer started. It does tab in here, but it's kind of hard to get a hold of that, so you just kind of work this off. There we go. And then, so it tabs here, and it tabs there, and it kind of tabs there too. Like that kind of fixes. And then there's a tab right there that tabs into the side of the wheel wells there. And the way this thing's supposed to be set up, because it's kind of become discombobulated because we've messed with it, but the way this is supposed to be set up is this part ends up behind there, right there, as opposed to, I'll switch it, in front, behind. And then this little thing here has a little tab. Get the angle right here. There's a little tab there, and it's supposed to lock onto that right there. Now I find this side on mine kind of comes loose a little bit, but it doesn't seem to have cause a big problem. It's just the way it is. So we get this open, and I mean, part of my video is because I have to have the thing stand up the whole time, the sequence that I use. So I mean, you can kind of skip around as needed. But the main thing here is we've got the window put away, or the rear view mirror, and then we can pop this loose, the hook I was talking about, and we're just going to rotate that 90 degrees, and then we're going to flip this over. Well, not yet. I screwed myself. And this is very directional. Like if you flip the first hinge first and then try to flip the rest of it, it's stuck. So you have to flip that half of it first, and then you can open it. But we need to flip this gas tank around like that. And now we can put it away and just get this articulated out to leave us a little space. And we'll just get way too close to the camera for the next 10 minutes, I guess. But this goes all the way around. And then this flips down and this follows it. Because this is going to be part of his leg. You'll see. You saw. I don't know. And then we can go ahead and flip this down. And spin the tank. And adjust our lights, maybe. There we go. And close it down there. It's pretty clever because, I mean, they want his legs to be flat, which is a big improvement over a lot. Like, Magic Square is very nice, but the legs are real fat. And, of course, MP-10's legs were real fat. So they wanted the legs to be flat, but then they wanted them to be all big and cartoony when they're done. And the way this thing unrolls is pretty clever because, you know, well, we start off here, so it's like that. And then it basically only has one pin joint here, but this part's kind of riding loose on it. And this is like the main part of it. But we flip this up. This has to be out of the way to stow away properly. And then we can flip this out back. And we can flip this. Now the instructions are like, oh, go ahead and put this away. But it actually gets in the way of this. So the best time to flip this is after you've got it all lined out here, and then you're ready to finish. And see, so what you end up with is a nice, like, fat leg that kind of rolled up when it was in truck mode. Pretty clever. And then we have to bend this thing. This is kind of one of those sort of pop joints, hexagon-shaped sort of joints, but it just kind of goes like this. And it doesn't really stitch together real tight yet until you assemble the rest of the leg. And so I'm going to look at comments while I fiddle with the other. Let's see. Nathan asked, do I miss the silver stripe for the truck? I really don't. I mean, I suppose a truck can have whatever stripes it wants to, but the cartoon, there was no silver stripe, so I suppose if they're going for cartoon accuracy, then they have achieved it by not having a silver stripe on it. This has to be at like a slight angle to rotate it. You can't have it all the way out. You have to tweak it there. And we put this away, and then we finish rotating that around, and we get that out of the way, and we close that, and we flip this, and close this, and then close that down. Now we've got the side of the truck put away now. This was a little scary the first time I did it, but I mean, you just basically pop it loose. I have no idea how it holds or if it's going to hold forever, but it seems to be pretty well designed. It snaps together pretty well. So you almost just kind of flex it a little bit, and you know. Now this has like forks, like a peg almost, and it plugs into a hole on the back of his crotch there. But you just kind of work that loose. But you can see those tabs. I'll try to show you one. So there's one fork. See that? And those two forks go face to face, and then they just go into that rectangular hole right there. So when you go back to truck mode, you tab these together, and then you have to actually kind of wiggle them down so that they go into the hole, and the knees will kind of click down into place. Knee placement for truck mode, you can see here there's just a little bit of a gap, so that's where you're looking to articulate your knees. Anyway, I'm telling you all this like we're not going to go back to truck mode later, but whatever. It's a complicated enough figure. Maybe I'll just run out of time before we get back to truck mode. So we open this out, and then as long as these skirts stay out of the way, you can go ahead and flip this over. So we'll just get rid of the toe hitch, and then just flip it over. So this pointy thing ends up inside the leg there. We'll get to the pointy thing in a little bit. KO Dave says this figure is extraordinarily clever. I would agree. I mean, some people think it's a little excessive, and I can see that point of view, but I really like complicated figures, and Takara's fitting into that niche. I mean, maybe they'd have a little more success with mass retail if they made a simpler figure and a cheaper figure, but I appreciate the fact that they're such purists, that they're like, we want this thing, at least from the front, to look exactly like the cartoon proportions. And to do that, they have to take this big cab and get rid of a lot of mass, which is why they get rid of the sides, and why he ends up with kind of a big backpack, because they're trying to like reduce the size of the upper body. Because in the cartoon, Optimus Prime has those big beefy calves, and he's kind of like all leg and then a little bit of upper body. That's just how he is. Once we move these out of the way, we can shift this. It's a little hard to elucidate, but basically there's just a swing arm there. So you can see the swing arm here. Let me see if I can manipulate it so you can see it. But there's just a little swing arm. So this starts off down here, where it actually kind of pegs into the foot. The foot kind of clicks into it. And then you make sure it's tilted down a little bit. You can't be all the way out, ever. But this kind of works its way up, and then goes here. And then there's a double articulated hinge system, so that you can extend the leg. And then you can pack this into the leg. Now the thing to keep in mind is if the foot is perfectly straight, then this here is going to impinge on the foot. So even in the video, if you pay attention, I show it clicking one notch out so that there's clearance. But we're just going to put this away and tab here. And then take a peek out front and make sure that this tabs in completely. Go back to the back. And this funny horn here is actually a locking mechanism. So you have to kind of press on the leg and then lock it down. But it also covers up that wheel right at the end. And then this part, I really just need to bring my camera up. There we go. This part, it gets stuck if you don't have it at the right angle, but you kind of bring it up. So in the other direction, we bring it down. So in this direction, we kind of bring it up, and then we can flip it down. And then for some reason, they wanted it flat here, but this little thing just rotates. I mean, it seems kind of slavish of them to make it round out like that, but it just rotates like 90 degrees. And then you can flip it down, and there's a tab that locks into it. If I don't have it misaligned. Why are you defeating me? There we go. And then I'll plow through the other leg real quick while I glance at the comments. Who's the best, MP-10 or MP-44? I mean, I gotta give it to MP-44. MP-10 is very elegant, but it's not terribly complicated, and there are some sacrifices made to the final robot mode so that, so it can be that sort of simple. So it turns into something that kind of looks like Optimus Prime, but, doesn't completely look like the cell animation or the original toy or anything really. So, but there is a place in my heart for MP-10. He's a very good figure. A lot of fun, and it doesn't take 20 minutes to transform. All right, and then we can fold the feet down. Now it's kind of interesting. You see this piece here doesn't move at all when I move the foot, but if I flip this out, now it's kind of part of the foot. So that's how it works. And then this opens up, this folds down, and then you have your heel spur. Same story over here. And now we're like halfway through. Check our comments. Someone said, what kind of Gundam is this? Yeah, it's kind of a Gundam. Mine came missing the horn piece in the back of the left leg. I'm waiting on the part. Anyone else have that problem? So are you talking about the locking the horn, this thing? I assume you're talking about this. That sucks because it kind of holds the leg together the way it locks in there. I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot to do the other one. Someone loves how he has an actual bumper. That's cool. Who doesn't like a good bumper? Now these, it's really interesting how the arms work, because they just basically said, all right, how much space do we have for the arms? Let's have the arms transform into a shape that fits in that space. And they didn't really have to worry about the fit and finish of it, because they're going to put that big panel over the side. So the arm can just be what it is. It's a very odd looking mechanism. But you flip this down. This is like on a, this is on the same hinge as the hand. So there's a hinge just running through it, but this kind of translates from the front to the back. And then around, you turn the hand around. Now you have to turn the hand around to allow for clearance for this bit. So we flip open that panel, we raise this up, and it's a little tight, like it wouldn't normally hold, like it would drive you crazy, but there's actually a little bit of a clip there, a little bit of a notch and slot, and it actually holds the arm together really well. And then you extend the arm, you can go ahead and close up the ceiling flap. The interesting thing is, the first time I had this thing transformed, and of course I closed this flap when I want to discuss it without it for a minute, but this flips down, and now you can't collapse the arm. So if you're going back to truck mode, you got to make sure that this is flipped out, because then, but it also kind of locks the arm open so it doesn't accidentally collapse, although I don't think it ever would, because this flap covers it up too. So now we'll just do this arm real quick. All right. Did I get it? Nope. There we go. All right. Now we can go ahead and move the hips down. And we close these down, flip these over. And it's fun. You'll notice in the video I forgot to do this, and then later on I turned them around for a different angle, and I was like, whoops, and I did it. But it would have been more elegant to do it while I was messing with all the hip stuff in the first place. So these actually kind of lock here and here, and you actually just pop them a little bit. Not too much, because the other stuff won't go. So you just do it a little bit, and then you flip this up. And because I won't have time to go back to truck mode or anything, I'll just point this out as I go along. But this, when you lower it down, sometimes the windscreen gets caught behind it a little bit, and I find that it's easier just to, there's a tab in there, there's a hole, and there's, not this one, but the little tab behind it goes into the hole. But if it doesn't want to sit flat, it's probably because the windscreen has gotten behind the center post a little bit. So you just kind of pull them out a little bit to pop them, and then it's flush again. Anyway, so this part flips up, and then you can flip up the thing. You fold up the bumper. Now it won't fold all the way over until these are mostly folded. And then you can fold it over. And then you can fold these the rest of the way, and then you can flip these little bits down. And then that's out of the way for now. I don't know. I don't like my hands, so I wear gloves. Thomas Tuck's Production says hi. Hi. Teridium Hanger says, do you feel it takes longer to go to alt mode? I don't know. I mean, the thing is toleranced pretty well. Like, everything lines up properly. So you don't have to really fight things in a position if you're doing it properly. I mean, there's some designs, some manufacturers that, you know, it turns into a real mess sometimes. Now here's a sequencing thing. This tab is in the way of this backpack, so we can't manipulate it there yet because that tab is in the way. But then the smokestacks are in the way of this, so the arms need to come out. But these top plates actually lock the arms into position. So you have to raise these up next. And now you can butterfly the arms out. Now they're out of the way. And now I can pop this loose and get it so it's not on that post. And now we're ready to unlock the front. So this tab pops loose here, and we can just raise the whole thing up. Now, the instructions from Takara tell you to get this loose first, get these separated first. But they're actually, I'll show you in a minute, but they're pegged into the grill piece. And it's actually really tight. Like, to get these unpegged is a bit of a challenge with the whole thing locked together like this. So that's why in the video I free this up first, and then it's just simplicity itself just to lower these off the pegs. So you see those orange pegs there. So up, down, simple. And then you gotta pop the wheels down. You can tilt these a little bit, and you can just go ahead and put the wheels away. Now you can't put the wheels away until you pop this down, because when this is up, there's not enough clearance back here. And I think a lot of people assume that you couldn't, even I assumed you couldn't put leave the matrix in truck mode, but you totally can. There is ample clearance to leave the matrix in. I don't know why it didn't come with the matrix in. It really threw me off, and when I did the video, unfortunately I hadn't even realized that yet. It was only today he was in truck mode, and I went to transform, and I was like, the matrix is in there. Well, son of a gun, you can leave it in. These flip up, and then they're just panel pieces. And then, once you get these splayed out a little bit, you've got enough room to rotate this bit out. And then, because the hook kind of goes through. And then you just lower the hook down. And then you park that out of the way, and you're ready to move on to the next phase. So we'll raise this up. And what we've been preparing for this entire time is to flip the head completely over. So it's inside the torso. So this flips. And as it does so, you just want to make sure that these roof panels end up like this. Keep flipping it up and flipping it up and flipping it up until it does stop. So unlike a lot of designs where they don't put stops, Takara puts stops. And then we flip down this piece. You know you're in the right position if it's nice and flat, and if when you flip up these faux roof panels, if the whole thing is flush across, then you know you're on the right track. And then once the faux roof panels are out of the way, we can flip over the windows. So remember, the windows were, you still have most of the window here, nice big windows, and they switched to smaller windows. We're not going to close those yet though. Now we have to get the arms back out of the way, so we're just going to butterfly them in. And with the arms out of the way, we have enough clearance for these tabs to miss the arms. So these go all the way up. And then we take the matrix bit, just kind of get it up to that point, and then we can close it. As for pulling it out, you get like a spludge or something and pop this loose, but you can do it with your fingers. It's just easier if you use a little pry tool. And then we can close the windows. They actually kind of have tabs that engage on the lower edge here. So they can be a little hard to open sometimes, but you just have to be aware of where they're catching. The other thing is, I showed this in the video, but it's kind of a subtle detail. These roof panels, they actually tab onto the side skirt here. And here. And then we can move the head out of the way. This thing rotates down, and there's a little notch there for it to tab onto. And then we can put the head into position. And then this bit opens up, And we flip it up. And see, it won't go now because of the way it's hinged there. So what you have to do is bring this kind of down, and now you've got the right clearance for it to go into position, and then it tabs. It does a pretty good, nice job of covering up all the shiny bumper bits. And then this is a little scary. Just make sure you don't push on his antennas. But there's a tab there. It's that tab that we needed clearance from originally. And there's a little socket in there, and you just have to tab it in. Now you'd think like this is something you have to pop loose so that you can have some waist articulation, and you can if you want to. But the thing is, this thing actually has a built-in ab crunch that's not part of the transformation. So you can just pop it loose, and it actually has a little bit of a side-to-side tilt. And it just gives you a lot of, you know, you can really get crazy with how far that can go. And you know, it's got a little meat to it, so it fills in, so it doesn't break his lines. But I mean, that's basically it. That's Optimus Prime right there. You know, he's very, very good representation of the cartoon. The upper body's kind of dinky like the cartoon, and the legs are all giant like the cartoon. It's pretty slick. Let's catch up on comments. Someone says they look at my channel. Casual looks at my channel before spending money on a figure, and okay, I appreciate that. I mean, you should always look at reviews. Reviewers are doing a good job of covering all the little details, like the accessories that we're doing in the live stream, but in a more professional orientation. What drove me crazy about reviewers was this phenomenon. All right, now you got to be really careful when you put this in. You got to do just like this. All right, you know, they just never keep it in frame. So when you're doing stop motion, you can't not keep it in frame because you're only taking one picture at a time. Articulation, we could play with that a little bit. This is really cool. The hips, when they rotate up, it's actually, the light's really washing this out, man. Sorry. But the hip skirt, if we can see it, spring loads out of the way. So it's actually a spring-loaded piece. And then it actually kind of automatically pushes the side skirt out of the way. So you can just bend the leg without a second care in the world. Bends way up, which is nice. I had to take the knees apart to fix them. They can become discombobulated. The problem is this piece. You see that little hook piece. This little hook is on a little piece. You can find pictures online, but it's the gear of a facing gear ratchet. And this piece ends up not, it kind of loses its mooring and ends up floating freely, and so the gears don't snap around each other anymore. It just drags the whole piece back and forth. And so what you have to do is you have to take the back of his leg off, very carefully extract the spring, because this is like a spring and gear. You can see the gear there. Really washed out. Let me just let me fix that. Change my but you can see the gear there. It's like one of those pin gears. So you take that out, you take the gear out, and then you disassemble this joint. And this is where the spring is, so just be careful. This is just this is a screw that holds like the floating knee. So the knee has like a little bit of a float to it. You can see that. That's just so it automatically hinges, and we'll get into that in a second. And then this is the other ratchet, and it doesn't engage right now because this little bit here is hitting the back of the knee. But if you look, there's like, my exposure is terrible for this, but there's a little slot right at this point. And this hook can go into that slot once you go far enough. So we're still using the primary joint, and now at this point, the secondary joint can slide into that slot. So it's a really clever design because it means you only have to deal with one joint at a time. So you got this joint, And I would say if you don't want this thing to pop loose, then when you do this main joint, just kind of put your finger on the back of this so that it doesn't go anywhere. So you're not putting a lot of force on it. So you're just kind of keeping this stable. Then maybe you don't even have to take yours apart. But mine came with one ratcheting and one not even ratcheting. And then a couple of minutes later, neither one was ratcheting. So I had to take it apart, glue this ratchet to the where it's supposed to hold still, and then put it all back together. But you can see it, the knee kind of automatically flexes to kind of fill space. So it's a shame that it falls apart like it does as it comes from the factory. But so far, I repaired mine, I don't know, last week before I shot, and it hasn't given me any trouble. So it seems like just a little super glue in the joint. You just be real careful when you take it apart, because the springs will, and then you won't have springs, and then you'll cry. Let's catch up on comments. Who do you find more fun to transform, 44 or 36? Predacon Waspinator asks. Well, I would say, I would say I can't choose. MP-44, and here's a good time to compare the two of them. I mean, he's very handsome, and they go very nicely together because they both have the same sort of toy aesthetic. Or cartoon aesthetic, I'm sorry. But, I don't know, it's hard to say. MP-44 has a special place because this was like the sort of opening salvo in the new cartoon accurate look. And there's a lot of clever mechanisms, like how his legs get skinnier and how he has this faux chest. And he's super clever. And he turns into a really passable Walther P-38 too, because so many. I mean, the original MP-5 Megatron was just hideous. The closest I think anyone else came that I had was I had a Polyon. I gave it to actually someone who's watching right now, but a Polyon was okay. It was very shiny. I still have the first video I ever did was on Make Toys. What is it, Despotron? That's a really clever design because the legs, instead of trying to make them skinnier and then fit together into the gun handle, they did like a thing where it's like one in front and one in back, turn into the gun handle. It's a pretty clever idea. And it didn't have a lot of the weird little linkages like a Polyon did. The arms were more natural. But they came up with a really good way of doing his arms. And he doesn't have little fiddly linkages like a Polyon or MP-5 either. So that's nice. Nathan was worried about the breakage. This thing is supposed to, this little bit here, it's supposed to be kind of adhered to, like part of that half of the joint. And what happens is it has like a little keying in it, like little keys and slots, and it gets loose. And I think part of the problem is, one thing you could do when you get the figure is just tighten this screw up. And maybe you just won't even have the problem. Because I honestly think that this can come loose because the joints may be a little too loose. So I would say tighten that screw up a little bit. And then just make sure that it's following properly. Like it shouldn't move at all. The hinge shouldn't be allowed to bend until it gets to the slot that it goes into. So you can see it disappearing into the slot now. And that's when it bends. But I don't know. I mean, it works really good. So I don't know how it would come loose other than that screw being maybe not tightened enough or coming loose or whatever. But it works pretty good. I don't think there's anything to worry about. I mean, it's a shame that you get an expensive figure and then you immediately have to fix it. But it's not a painful fix, and just requires a little glue. Maybe even the glue's not important. Maybe you just get it lined up properly and tighten it up, and then you don't even need the glue. But I put a little glue on it just in case. Are there die-cast parts? Takara isn't. heavy into die-cast like some people are. Like, you know, you get your fans' toys and they're just pointlessly die-cast. I'm sure there's die-cast in this thing where it needs it. I'm trying to remember if I've run into things that I thought were die. It's really hard to tell because it's so nicely painted. Everything's paint. Everything you see is paint. This is painted, this is painted, this is painted. So it's actually kind of hard to detect the die cast because you don't feel the coldness of the die cast on your fingers. I wouldn't say this has a lot of die cast to speak of. I mean, even these sort of heavy duty armatures in his waist seem to be plastic. So he's fairly heavy though. He's about the same weight as MP-44. They're about the same. And about the same content too, because this guy didn't have a lot of die cast either. What is this? Maybe die cast right there. He had a couple of things. Oh, the gun barrel is die cast, isn't it? But I mean, they don't go out of their way to make things die cast. They just pick the right material for the right thing. Yeah. I mean, you can always have QC issues. It is a shame. I got mine fairly cheap because if you order from Amazon Japan, if you have a credit card that'll work for the Japanese market, which some people don't, but if you can pre-order from Amazon Japan, you like right away get 40% off the retail price. And then if the price drops, you know, like the price, you can see the price match guarantee at the US Amazon when you order like the new Siege Jetfire. There's a price match guarantee, but if the price drops below that point along the way, you get the lowest price along the way. And then there was a problem with my card and my email, and they ended up like canceling my account. So when I called them, and it's very interesting to try to call Japan, you have to call at like 9 p.m. so that you can get them at 9 a.m. But when I called them and complained about the fact that if I reorder it, I'm not going to have the same price that I would have from the first order, they gave me like a coupon to try to compensate for the loss, and I think the coupon was a little too generous, so I ended up getting for like $275 instead of what people report they're getting it for like $300 or $320 from Amazon Japan, but it's still a lot better than $450. Nick Nazardi says hi. Hi, Nick. There's die cast in the Ab Crunch. Yeah? All right. I'll take your word for it. It's really hard to tell. I don't know. I can't really find any die cast to speak of. He's not supposed to be die cast. He's supposed to be whatever the material is correct. Yeah? Wow, yours really got bound up because, I mean, mine shipped on like Sunday the 1st. Check my calendar. Yeah. Mine shipped like on Sunday the 1st and I had it by Wednesday the 4th. It shipped like Sunday or Monday. I mean, the shipping from Japan is really fast. I got to think somehow they're kind of like pre-authorized for customs, so customs doesn't catch it. But mine went from Japan to Cincinnati, Ohio, for no reason I could think of, and then from Cincinnati it went to the Reagan Airport in D.C. and then it DHL'd out to my house the next day. Nobody else is saying much there. Let's. We've got our comparison with Megatron. They look good together. They're about the same height too. One shall stand, one shall fall. But let's just give you an idea how primitive MP-10 looks comparatively now. He's got a nice butch look to him, but they do have a different look. This was a very sort of toy aesthetic. Do what we can. You can see the wheels. Not terribly cool. And the fact that this guy, I mean, there's a lot of panel lines because of the way he fits together, and I wish they'd figured out how to make this not red. This is actually that little bit of the door that folded over. And I can see a hobbyist figuring out how to paint that blue because I don't think it would be visible in truck mode, but it's a shame that that's showing like that. But, you know, they hide the wheels. There are no wheels. So they did a good job with that. I mean, MP10 seems really primitive comparatively now. I remember thinking MP10 was like the perfect thing, but you know, the legs are very. They don't look at all like the cartoon. I mean, the cartoon didn't have like big wheel wells and all that crap. Waspinator, Predacon Waspinator says MP10 is still pretty, and that's true. He's still a pretty figure. He's still better than most figures. We could do some of the accessories. I mean, you know how the gun works. I'm not going to get into the gun. It's a pain in the ass. This thing hooks on here and then kind of tabs onto these things. And now he's got a backpack. And now, you know, like the it doesn't look so bad, you know. But I mean, it is a big chunk of backpack. Ooh. While I'm thinking of it, we got to do this. So we'll turn it on. There's a little turn on switch there. And then there's a little button. So he says things in Japanese that I don't understand. Cybertroza's attack. That's fun. And then if you do a long press, you'll switch between banks. So there are 6 banks. The first 5 banks, and when you turn it off and turn it back on, you always start with bank 1 again. But the first 5 banks are Japanese, and the 6th bank is where the secret sauce is. That's where the Peter Cullen clips are. And every time you switch banks, if you just hold it long enough, you'll hear a transform sound, either like a transform down or a transform up. But it's a transform sound every time. So now we're on bank 2. Different Japanese things. Ha ha ha. Alright, so let's go to bank. That is a long one. I didn't even push it again. That was like a 10 second clip. Alright, so here's bank 3. Different Japanese phrases. And then we go to bank 4. More stuff. I wish I understood it. Then we have bank 5. Alright. And then bank 6. Here's where the magic happens. You can hear that okay, right? And all the clips that are in a bank seem to be kind of randomized. So there's like 3 or 4 per bank. And then this is kind of fun. When you switch from bank 6 back to bank 1, when you do the long press, what it's going to do is play one of the interstitial sound music bits from the show. So here we go. Listen. And now we're back to bank 1. So we'll just switch it off. He's got the crotch piece. It occurs to me. Oh yeah, there's like slots here. Slots there. And this just slides on. Which way? This way. I'm doing it wrong. Yeah, there it is. And now you could put them on that display stand that came with Dinobot. Or, you know, if you're people that don't collect Beast Wars, I guess you're out of luck. I don't know why they don't include that thing. Oh, and we've got the Starscream bit. It's kind of fun. So there's an episode I don't remember, but my kid remembers when I asked him about it. But we slide the head off. And I gotta get this open. Flip this up. I'm off camera just like a reviewer. Flip this out. And then this has little hooks. And it just slides over the tab. And then we can lock everything back together. And then we put on Starscream's head. And now it's Starscream.
It was me the whole time. You thought I was your leader, Optimus Prime, and I'm not.
Anyway. And then... we also have... We have a head... Apparently in a couple of the earlier episodes, his head had a different look to it. So there's also this head. And just to compare, this is the default head. More macho. Focus. Thank you. And then it also comes with... I'm having to juggle this with one hand. But it comes with the fractured head from after his only fight with Megatron, since for some reason in the entire cartoon series they never beat the hell out of each other, and then in that one movie they do. And it also comes with a bit of ornamentation, plugs into this socket here, but it just gives you that damaged torso. And that covers the accessories. I'm done with the accessories. All right. Yeah, someone pointed out that he seems a bit wobbly. I'll give Tim O'Dell credit for pointing that out. I guess it seems that way. I don't think it's like a design defect. I think it's part of their intention was to have his waist be really variable and have a lot of options in terms of waist flexibility. So it doesn't really ever lock down. It's on a loose hinge joint there. I mean, you can put it where you want it; it'll stay when he's standing. But yeah, the waist has a bit of a loose flex to it. But I'm not offended by it. I don't think it's an engineering defect. It's just the way it is. Christian Yahir says, "Ho, soy de Mexico. Buenos dias, Christian." Siege Prime is amazing. Yes, Nathan. Someone else must have said that earlier. I can't find you. Tim O'Dell says he loves my vids. I appreciate that. KO Dave, I wish we got more Peter Cullen lines. True. Tim gave me my feedback on how it sounded. It's a bit muffled. I mean, it's a sound chip and it's talking through holes in his back, so it is what it is. Probably doesn't come over on the microphone very effectively. That's what the 1986 movie is for. Yeah, it's for killing Prime. They were like, we'll just kill off Prime and start a whole new toy line, and all the kids will rush to buy the new leader and the new leader of the Decepticons and the new leaders and the new toys. And much to their astonishment, everyone was like, "What did you do? Why did you kill Prime?" And then, Prime's been a permanent staple ever since they brought him back in season, 3? I can unplug the top of the backpack without unplugging the bottom. Get out of here. Let me try it. What? Yeah, I mean, it kind of flexes a little bit. So you can get away with it. That's a good point. I'll save myself time in the future. Thank you. That was KO Dave with the big tip. Thank you. Nathan says I did a good Starscream impression. It's over, Prime. I can do Megatron too. I am Optimus Prime. Okay, Predacon points out there was a G1 episode called Heavy Metal War where they duke it out. That's nice. That's weird. KO Dave asks if I use a DSLR. Yes, I use a Canon 40D. It's not a terribly expensive camera, but it gives me all the control I need over exposure and aperture and all that stuff. But it doesn't have a zoom. One of these days, I'm going to have enough money to buy a nice macro zoom lens that I have my eye on. Because if you look back at my old MP-36 videos, I re-edited a few times. But the MP-36, I shot that with my cell phone, where I'd found a program that let me tether my cell phone as if it was a webcam. And then in the cell phone, I was able to zoom and unzoom in the cell phone, which is why in the MP-36 video, there's a whole lot of like zooming out and then moving and then zooming back in, which I think is kind of a cool effect. But I can't do that with my current setup. I've got to like move the whole tripod back and forth to zoom. It's a little tedious, so my shots end up being a little more static. If I get into a good position, I stay in that position. I do like a zooming out and zooming in. Ramjet Car says, is it worth the price? It's worth the price I paid. I don't know that I would want to pay $450 for this thing. But the $300 approximate that I paid for it was probably worth the price. It's decent. There will inevitably be a KO, and for those of you that simply weren't going to buy this anyway, I don't know that there's that much shame in getting the KO because you weren't going to buy it anyway. You're not Takara's market if you end up getting the KO because you weren't going to get it anyway. But yeah, there'll be. I just saw Megatron. I've got too much stuff in my way. But this MP-36 has been KO'd again. As far as I know, it's been KO'd by like 3 or 4 different companies at this point. But I just saw an advertisement for a KO of Megatron. Looks good. Looks just like it. But it was $90. So if you're patient enough, you're not going to have to worry about paying a whole lot of money for it. Will they make improvements like die-cast? I don't know. It doesn't need die-cast. It actually has kind of a cold feel to it because it's so nicely painted. But the thing doesn't need a bunch of die-cast. I don't know what the point of that is. If you like die-cast and you like things that are basically parts formers except they're held together by a piece of string, Fans Toys. Fans Toys is your company. Marco Bravo doesn't like the waist. Yeah. If I had to pick a weakest element, the waist. But I don't know. They build a lot of flexibility into that waist, so it's maybe can be forgiven, given the flexibility. Nathan points out that we should expect a KO within the next year. I don't doubt it. They'll KO it. They'd be insane not to. The only way they won't KO it is if, Takara cracks down Bandai style on the KO companies and they're prevented from KOing it. But I don't see that happening. I don't know why people get away with all the KOs that are in the Transformer world, but they do. They get away with it. Have you heard of the new Burning Convoy repaint of MP Optimus Primal? That's kind of cool. That sounds fun. I had not heard of that until you just told me, so thank you. Just occurred to me I can take all my bag of spare parts and shove it in the trailer. Maybe not now. It's too noisy. Predacon Waspinator asks, what will my next transformation be? Drumroll. My next transformation is going to be MMC's Impetus, which is their take on Vortex from the Combaticons. Impetus is very clever. If MP-44 hadn't shown up, I would have shot that. I've got it all worked out. If anything, it's a little more elegant than MP-44 because I'm not going to have to do a bunch of crazy shit. It's going to hold together very nicely. It's going to be very clean production. That thing is so clever because you have a lot of combiner limbs that are, the arm is kind of an afterthought. We'll just use the legs for the arm or whatever. But this thing is like a triple changer. I'm going to shoot it like a triple changer too. So it'll have like my Blitzwing and Astro Train videos. I'm just going to do all the permutations. So you're going to get vehicle to robot, vehicle to arm, robot to vehicle, robot to arm, arm to vehicle, arm to robot. You'll get all the permutations for your... So it's a transformation guide. Yeah, I'm going to be... Nathan asked about doing the entire MMC Bruticus. I am totally doing the entire MMC Bruticus. I love the idea that it's completely integrated. For those of you that don't know, MMC's take on Bruticus is you don't have to take a hand and plug it into it. The hand is built in to the robot slash vehicle. The feet are built in, and the torso, all those panels and the head and all the stuff that happens with Bruticus, all that's built into the torso guy. So very clever design. Totally going to do it. I'm going to be doing each one at a time, and then I imagine at some point I'll do like a video that has them come together, and maybe produce like a super cut that's just all of them transforming from like vehicle mode to limb mode and then combining. I don't know. Predicant Waspinator asked for some Siege stuffs. I've thought about doing Siege Prime because he's pretty clever, but Siege is lower down on my echelon. They don't put quite as much engineering into Siege than they do for like the Studio series, which is kind of my fallback when I run out of Masterpiece figures. Plus, I'm kind of determined to do the Devastator for Studio series. But who knows? Maybe I'll do Siege one of these days. Someone mentioned earlier redoing MP-10, and I do intend to redo MP-10. Because, I mean, he was like my second video, so I've learned a lot since then, and a new MP-10 video would be a little cleaner. KO Dave prefers parts forming combiners. I mean, certainly they can... The new like the Zeta style of parts forming combiners can certainly be a little more stable, but I suspect the MMC is going to be extremely stable, and it's all built in. You don't have extra parts laying around at the end, so I got to argue in favor of that. But I mean, it's funny. I've done thanks to Chosen Prime loaning them to me. I've done the Fans Toys Menasor torso and the Aerial Bots torso, and the funny thing is, as far as I can tell, those things, they just turn into a cube. Like Menasor just turns into a cube, and then you just plug that cube into the back of an already pre-existing torso. So I mean, in what sense is he involved in the combine mode when you have like a, you know, thighs and hips and a torso and a head that the thing plugs into the back of? I mean, it just seems pointless. It seems pointless to me. That boy J27 asks, how long does it take to do a stop motion transformation video? Depends on the complexity of the item. This guy, it probably took me 3.5 hours to shoot it, and this doesn't include me like figuring it out over the previous several days, because I'm like constantly like saying like, can it stand like this? Can I put it here while I'm working on this? And I got to figure all that out. But the actual shoot takes about, it was like 3.5 hours, and then I had a lot of post-production to get rid of the supports for the leg parts. And so that always takes me longer if I have to edit a bunch of supports out. But that was probably another 3. It probably took 7 hours total from start to finish to do him. By comparison, that Sea Spray I just did, the X-Transbots Neptune, you know, it took me an hour and a half to shoot and an hour and a half to edit. It was pretty quick. KO Dave asks if there's any stop motion tips. I mean, you were asking about maybe MP-44 in particular. I mean, you'd almost have to do it the way I did it to keep him stable the whole time. He's, you know, because when he's kind of like the T-1000 from Terminator at some point. You know, he's all exploded out and discombobulated. So MP-44 in particular, I don't know, just do it the way I did it. I don't know. But stop motion in general, you just need to make sure that you have a program that does what's called onion skinning, where basically it superimposes the current live view from your camera onto the previous frame. So when you first shoot a frame, the live view and the previous frame are identical. And then when you move the figure a little bit, you'll see how he starts to separate from the other one, like the ghost image of his previous frame. But that helps you line, if you're trying to move just one thing and the whole thing kind of shifts, you can kind of get everything lined back up by using that reference frame. So onion skinning is very good. I use Dragon Frame, and they have like a really handy little button that I can push on the keyboard that will toggle between the two frames. So I can kind of go do 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 do, and it'll like switch back and forth real fast. And it's easier sometimes to see what's moving than the superimposed ghost image can show you. All right. We are coming to the end of this supersized live stream. I'm going to ask for final questions. Final questions, and then we'll be signing off. Maybe nobody has any final questions, and that's fine too. It doesn't make you a bad person if you don't have final questions. Yeah, KO Dave asks if when I'm filming, do you pick them up and move that part and then use onion skinning to match them back up, or do you try to keep them in place the whole time? It is very advantageous to keep them in place the whole time, because you'll drive yourself nuts trying to line things up again. One thing I do is I'll try to remember to bring it if I do a live stream next week, but you get these temporary glue dots. It comes like in a roll. I forget who makes them, but they're glue dots. They're little like pieces of snot. And sometimes you can see him peeking out different places in the video. But when I want to put the figure down in a place, like when he was in truck mode, kind of hard to explain here. Like this guy's got more of a truck mode. But what I did is I put a glue dot like there and there and there, and then I just stuck the truck down on the stage. And that way, oh God, don't knock Megatron off. What the hell's wrong with you? But that way, as I manipulate the figure, the truck doesn't move. So if you take the time, usually right before I get to the last movement of a movement, like the last moment, and I need to reposition, I'll take the whole thing off and get the glue and line it back up, and then it's already glued down. So sticking it down, I used to use sticky tack in a lot of the older videos. You can see the sticky tack. I switched to the clear glue dots because they're less visible, and they work better. They work better than the sticky tack because the thing doesn't move. That boy J27 says, thank you for your work. Well, you're welcome. O Casual says, do you recommend this toy? Yeah, I recommend it. If you can find a good price for it, it's good. I don't know that I would have ever spent like $450 for it. They could have actually made it a lot cheaper if they hadn't included the trailer, but you know, it's nice that they include the trailer. But the trailer is probably $150 of extra cost. This part of it would probably have been like closer to $250 if they didn't have the trailer. Maybe $300, but I'd recommend it if you can get a good price. Otherwise, you know, maybe you wait for the inevitable KO. I don't know. Anything new from Studio Series in particular that catches my eye? No. No. I mean, I'm looking forward to doing the rest of the Constructicons, and trying to remember what else has been announced. I mean, they get the Prime with the big trailer, so I guess I'll get that, but, you know, it's just the same Prime. It's the MP-30 or the SS-32 Prime. It seems kind of pointless. You have to call out what those glue dots are. They sound real useful. Hold on, I'll just tell you. I'll just Google it real quick since I'm sitting here. 1 second. Because I get them from Amazon, but you can get them from like Hobby Lobby or, you know, a craft store. Glue dots. So the search term is glue dots. Add display capture. Hey, look, it worked. Let's see, how do I... There we go. There we go. Okay. So you see the display capture, I guess. Glue dots. You want these? I get these. And I don't use the little roller, but it's just a convenient package, and I just kind of hand hand roll it, and then, you know. I don't know how to switch. How do I switch sources? I don't know. Ah, okay, good. So, glue dots. Real easy. You just have to make sure you get the ones that are temporary, because like here you can see one. Here you can see one that's permanent projects. Don't get the permanent glue dots. I don't know what that would do. You want to get the ones that are temporary glue dots. Like this one says removable. Those are the glue dots. I've never captured my screen like that before, so that worked. Now I'm watching my stream a full 3 minutes behind what I'm doing. Alright, gang. I am going to be signing off. Wonder when this goes away. Remove. Oh, it did go away. Okay. Anyway, I'll be signing off. Thanks for hanging out with me, talking about MP-44. This Sunday we'll be seeing a video for MMC Impetus. And then maybe next Wednesday we'll have a discussion about MMC Impetus and anything else that's come up. And also, a lot of people asked me to do Transform Elements Optimus Prime. I found a good deal for the Nemesis version of him, so I went ahead and picked that up, and we'll be doing a TE transformation video at some point in the next month or so. All right, thanks everyone. Have a good evening. Yeah, I try to do the live stream on Wednesdays, but I'm lazy sometimes and I don't do it. But you can look for it on Wednesdays. All right, good night, everybody.